Sagittarius, the ninth sign of the zodiac, represented by a centaur with a bow, because apparently someone in ancient Greece looked at the night sky and thought, yes, that absolutely looks like a half-man, half-horse performing archery. It's the sign that runs from November 22nd to December 21st, which means Sagittarians spent their birthdays surrounded by the smell of eggnog, discount advent calendars, and out-of-tune carol singers. But Sagittarius is more than festive chaos and embarrassing sweaters. It's the sign of adventure, philosophy, and the ability to say, let's go, before they've even put their trousers on. It's the sign of honesty, so blunt it once gave a motivational speech that made 3 people cry and 1 person move to Portugal. So grab your map, your travel mug, and your half-finished to-do list, because the cosmos is about to get excited.
Sagittarius, mutable fire ruled by Jupiter and proudly waving the banner of, I'll figure it out later. It's a yang sign, which basically means the energy goes outward, sometimes in the wrong direction, but always with great enthusiasm. In this episode, we'll drag ourselves through its history, mythology, psychology, and we'll look at why Sagittarians are powered entirely by caffeine and optimism. We'll check out the constellation itself, which everyone is politely pretending looks just like a centaur with a bow. We'll rummage through the correspondences, so that's your tarot cards, your herbs, gemstones, and what is likely to be the worst smelling potpourri of all time. So buckle up, mutable fire is unpredictable, and Jupiter likes things big, loud, and excessive. There's no guarantee we'll finish where we started, but hopefully we'll learn something, or get distracted and join a cult. Anyway, first we're going to watch our poor Taurus fool get dragged into yet another astrological crisis that he definitely never asked for.
The Fool's Odyssey. The Fool has been hurtling through space on a physically impossible train so he can get his ticket stamped by every zodiac sign and go home. Presently he's heading toward the Sagittarius platform.
Now approaching Sagittarius. Please brace for unsolicited enthusiasm.
As soon as he steps from the train, he suddenly finds himself on the back of a centaur, galloping through the station. Ah, what the hell's going on? Welcome aboard. No explanations, just velocity. We're going really fast. Fear not, I know this station like the back of my hindquarters. Who the hell put that there? Oh well, onwards and upwards. Where are we going? Why, to the shooting range. If you can beat me, I'll stamp your ticket. I need to get some practice in after I got beaten by Apollo. I was suffering from projectile dysfunction. I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. Zeus put me amongst the stars. I got the Constellation prize. Before you know it, the pair of them arrive at a hastily constructed shooting range. Here we are. Right, competition time. Hit the target and get your stamp. Miss and... yeah, that happens a lot round here. Why's that then? I have great ideas, but I tend to do a half-assed job of things. Anyway, my turn first. See? That was a warm-up shot. Looked more like a warning shot. Exactly. Now they know we mean business. Now it's your turn. Big circle, can't miss. This feels unsafe. Perfect mindset. Shoot. Bullseye! That certainly made me quiver. Time to stamp your ticket. Did you just miss? Just testing the reflexes, old boy. There we are, 1 ticket stamped. Now, let's get you back to the station. We can pop into the cheese shop on the way. What for? So we can shoot the breeze. And so the Fool hurtles off once more, clutching his ticket, his composure, and a lump of damaged cheese. To be continued. And now we return to the buttocks of destiny, where the sheer thrill of galloping through the station on a half-horse adrenaline machine has jolted our arrow away from the sad cheek and straight towards the centaur. Will the Fool ride this high, or will destiny clench? Find out next time on The Fool's Odyssey. The history of Sagittarius.
Back in the 1st century, the Roman poet-astrologer Marcus Manilius painted Sagittarius as a fiery defender of the cosmic order. He wrote, "Bold Sagittarius subjects to his flame, with bow full drawn as to defend his claim. An equal share in empire all maintain, but keep not the same order in their reign." That equal share in empire is how Manilius saw the zodiac as a kind of celestial government, where every sign has its own authority. Sagittarius in this lineup is the vigilant one, bow raised, flame lit and guarding its territory. Fast forward a century to Claudius Ptolemy, who called it a masculine, diurnal and fiery sign governed by Jupiter, and goes on to highlight its hybrid nature, describing it as human and quadrupedal. When he talks about the kind of people it produces, he says men noble, just and generous, lovers of honour, of travel and of learning. He also notes that fiery edge, adding that Sagittarians can be easily angered, impetuous and headstrong. Moving from classical astrology into the esoteric and the writings of Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, where we meet the angelic guardian of Sagittarius, ANDRI. I'm never going to be able to pronounce these angel and demon names properly. Anyway, that name is usually translated as rest of God. In occult tradition, he inspires eloquence, clarity of understanding and the ability to grasp higher mysteries. As a zodiacal archangel, he's linked with expansion and spiritual insight, making him the uplifting Jupiterian force behind the sign. On the shadow side, and in the writings of Eliphas Levi, we find Sarithael, the archdemon associated with Sagittarius. His name is usually translated as causing the rebellion of God, which sounds dramatic but speaks to the descending or disruptive energies of the sign, the urge to challenge and push past boundaries. Levi didn't treat these spirits as evil, more as the counterweight to the archangel's uplift. Where Adnakiel embodies expansion through wisdom, Sarithael represents expansion through defiance and breaking the limits that hold the spirit back. Together they sketch the full Sagittarian spectrum, the seeker who rises towards truth and the firebrand who refuses to obey rules.
The mythology of Sagittarius.
The Babylonians had some slightly terrifying associations for this sign. They imagined Sagittarius as Nergal, their fearsome deity of war and plague, who they described as the god of inflicted death. Sounds like a splendid fellow. In the sky, he wasn't the simple centaur that we've come to know and love, but a full-blown mythical chimera, human torso, horse body, wings, a panther's head, a human head, and a scorpion stinger. Not really someone you'd want to bump into while you're stargazing. The Egyptians recognised this constellation too, though not as a centaur. On the Dendera zodiac, Sagittarius appears as a standing archer with bow drawn, but entirely human. No horse body or monstrous hybrid, just a lone figure aiming at the sky. Fast forward to the Greeks, who gave Sagittarius a major rebrand and conjured up the image of the centaur archer that's become familiar to us. Some writers identified the archer with Chiron, the wise centaur who taught heroes like Jason and Achilles. Others pointed out that Chiron was already represented by Centaurus, so Sagittarius must be someone else. One tradition even claims Chiron created both constellations to guide the Argonauts on their quest for the Golden Fleece. Then there was yet another rival theory that the archer wasn't a centaur at all, but Crotus, a satyr and gifted horse-riding marksman much loved by the Muses. Zeus placed him in the sky with his bow drawn at the moment of perfect aim. And that arrow, it's pointing straight at Antares, the heart of the scorpion, just in case Scorpio ever wakes up and decides he's going to have a pop at Hercules. Could happen. So yes, there were probably plenty of arguments in ancient Greece about who Sagittarius actually was, which in a way is very Sagittarian. Lots of theories, lots of opinions, everyone firing their shot and hoping it hits the truth. But out of all that debate emerged the classic image, the centaur archer aiming beyond the horizon, forever searching for the bigger picture.
The psychology of Sagittarius.
Carl Jung offered us one of the most evocative descriptions of the Sagittarius archetype in analytical psychology. He frames it in a symbolic moment, the dimming of the consciousness at the year's end, and the psyche's attempt to reach something beyond itself. He says Sagittarius, the death of the sun. Death is a sort of river or gap. There is a life beyond, but one is here on this bank of the river and cannot get there. Here the death of the sun is the ego's light fading in late autumn, when consciousness weakens and the unconscious grows stronger. The river or gap is the psychological threshold, where you can sense renewal on the far side, but you can't reach it through reason or effort alone. It's a classic individuation moment, until Jung introduces the figure who can cross that divide. He says, then comes the legend of the centaur, a good archer who with a bow can send an arrow across. It's a means of communication. The centaur is a psychopomp, which literally means guide of souls. The arrow is intuition. Where the ego cannot step, intuition can fly. Sagittarius becomes the symbol of the psyche's ability to aim into the dark and make contact with what's still forming beneath the surface. This leads to Jung's final lines. The archer Sagittarius, with the arrow of intuition, foresees new birth out of the unconscious. This is the Advent season, when ghosts begin to walk again, when the unconscious begins to manifest itself. When Jung calls this the Advent season, he means a time when the veil thins. old complexes rise like ghosts, unfinished stories return, and the unconscious becomes unusually active. Sagittarius stands at that boundary with bow drawn, trying to communicate between what you are and what you're about to become. So the Centaur Archer becomes the psyche's way of navigating darkness with purpose, a figure who doesn't fear the gap but fires straight across it, trusting that something on the far bank is waiting to be born.
The personality of Sagittarius.
So let's kick off this section by taking a look at the cosmic architecture. Sagittarius is a fire sign, which in occult terms means will and the urge to reach beyond the familiar. But unlike Aries' spark or Leo's steady flame, Sagittarius is the fire that travels, the torch carried on a long road. Its masculine or yang polarity pushes energy outward. This is the seeker projecting ideas and arrows of meaning into the world, rather than turning inward to analyse them. The mutable modality adds flexibility and restlessness. Mutable fire wants movement and the freedom to follow inspiration wherever it leads. And all of this is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion and big picture thinking. Jupiter gives Sagittarius its optimism and love of growth. Put it all together and you get the archetype of the explorer scholar, fiery and hungry for truth. So first of all, the good news. Sagittarians are seen as optimistic and naturally open-minded. They're the people who spot connections others miss, who bounce back quickly, and who bring humour and perspective into heavy situations. Many view Sagittarius energy as inspiring because it aims high and encourages others to think bigger. However, Sagittarians can also be seen as restless, impulsive, and occasionally too blunt for their own good. The same fire that fuels their enthusiasm can make them impatient with details or routines, and their honesty can come off as tactless. Also, people often describe Sagittarius energy as brilliant at starting things, but less enthusiastic about sticking around once the excitement dips. From a health point of view, in the old doctrine of Melethesia, Sagittarius rules the hips and the thighs, or as Manilius puts it, simply the thighs, the centaur. Because of that, Sagittarians are often seen as people who thrive when they're physically moving. Walking, travelling, stretching, exploring, anything that keeps the body in motion tends to settle the mind as well. The usual advice given to Sagittarians is to keep moving, pace your enthusiasm, and try not to treat every physical limit as a personal challenge from the universe. Getting onto wealth and careers, Manilius said, "And he that then is born shall ne'er be poor, to him rich fortune shall entrust her store." So it looks like Sagittarians are generally loaded. If that's true, let me know in the comments. And can we be friends, please? Jupiter's influence should give this sign a natural instinct for big ideas and taking risks. Sometimes calculated, sometimes enthusiastically guessed. They're viewed as generous with what they have and enjoy travel, education, or anything that expands their world. Good career choices include teaching, exploration, storytelling, research, or any field that lets them follow their curiosity. In relationships, Sagittarians are seen as warm, enthusiastic partners who bring humour and a sense of adventure. People often say that you usually know where you stand with them because they say what they mean and they mean what they say. On the flip side, Sagittarians can also be seen as needing plenty of space. They can grow uneasy if things feel too heavy, too fast, or too tightly defined. Despite this, partners often praise their optimism and big-hearted nature. When Sagittarius finds someone who shares their curiosity, the connection tends to be joyful and surprisingly loyal. Which brings us neatly to the question, how does all this fiery enthusiasm behave on a date?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's star-crossed. This week our adventurous bachelor is Sagittarius, philosopher, explorer, and a man who once booked a holiday while already on holiday. Will he find true love? Let's meet our three hopefuls. Will it be Taurus? This practical queen thinks Sagittarius just needs a patient partner, and maybe a nap. Or how about Libra? This balanced beauty thinks she can stabilize Sagittarius, or at least keep him facing the right direction. Or maybe Pisces. This watery stunner is convinced they can swim towards a deeper love. Sagittarius, it's time to ask your big question.
Hi birds, here's the question. If we went out together, how would you handle a man who's full of fire, loves a bit of danger, and isn't afraid to go off the beaten track, if you know what I mean? Woof woof.
If you're going off the beaten track, I'll be waiting at the campsite with a hot meal, a soft blanket, and a very good reason to come back.
I'd handle your fire with grace, darling. You lead the adventure, I'll make it look fabulous, and if you wander off, I'll charm you right back. Oh, I'd
follow your fire anywhere. I'd bring candles, soft music, and probably cry a little from excitement.
Well, Sagittarius, it's make your mind up time.
I'm going with Libra. She'll keep things fun, flirty, and beautifully balanced, even when I forget where we're going.
A perfect match of fire and air, Sagittarius and Libra, everyone. But hold on to your hearts, it's time for Star-Crossed Tinder edition.
Turn-ons, tidy kitchens, punctuality, and men who fold things properly.
She's lovely, but she'd leave me for using a towel as a cape.
I won't tell you anything about me until date 3, and by then, it's too late.
I love a puzzle, but not one that might bury me in the garden.
Serious inquiries only. I own a planner, a budget, and a moral backbone.
Very respectable, very grown up, very not for me.
I protest things, build things, and occasionally overthrow things.
A rebel with a hobby, that's practically foreplay.
I'll bring you soup when you're sick, blankets when you're cold, and feelings when you avoid yours.
I avoid my feelings for sport.
I'm passionate, loyal, and capable of a dramatic exit that wins awards.
I can't date someone who storms out better than I do.
Adventurous, spontaneous, allergic to routine, passport always loaded.
A Sagittarius dating a Sagittarius, no building would survive.
Let's go skydiving right now. No, seriously, I'm already in the car.
Terrifyingly enthusiastic. Sounds perfect.
I'm spontaneous, curious, and always up for a last-minute trip. I pack fast and talk faster.
Finally, someone who won't ask where we're going. Or why.
The constellation of Sagittarius.
Now we turn our gaze to the stars of Sagittarius. Astronomers place it low in the southern sky from northern latitudes, but what it lacks in height it makes up for in spectacle. Sagittarius points directly towards the densest, brightest stretch of the Milky Way. In a dark sky you'll see that luminous band swell into a rich cloud of stars and dust, a clue that you're looking straight toward the centre of our galaxy. The constellation itself is, well, even if you squint you're not going to see a centaur. Most modern stargazers see something a bit more domestic, a teapot. And once you've seen the teapot, you can't unsee it. A lid, a spout, a handle, the lot. But this actually works in our favour, because from that spout pours a plume of interstellar dust known as the steam, which leads your eye directly toward the galactic centre. So yes, the heavens have given us a mythical archer with the body of a horse and the silhouette of a kitchen utensil. The brightest star is Caus Australis, about 140 light years away, marking the archer's bow. Another standout is Nunki, a hot blue star often used by astronomers as a point to calibrate their telescopes. But the real treasure isn't a star at all. Follow the spout of the teapot and you're looking directly towards Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole at the heart of the Milky Way. Sagittarius is also home to some of the sky's most photographed objects, the Lagoon Nebula, a vast pink cradle of star formation, the Trifid Nebula, with its dramatic dark lanes splitting the glowing gas, and the Omega Nebula, whose billowing shape has earned it nicknames like the Swan or the Horseshoe. It's a part of the sky that ancient astronomers saw as rich and mysterious, but modern astronomy has revealed it to be even more extraordinary. Astronomically, Sagittarius covers a large, busy part of the sky, yet the Sun doesn't actually enter its constellation boundaries during the Sagittarius season. Thanks to precession, the Sun now passes straight through Scorpius and then Ophiuchus instead, before finally reaching Sagittarius well after Capricorn season has begun. It's one of those quirks that shows how the tropical zodiac follows the seasons rather than the stars. Which brings us on to sidereal astrology, where the zodiac is aligned with the actual constellations in the sky. Those born from December the 16th to December the 21st would be a Sagittarius in both systems, while anyone born earlier, from November the 16th to December the 15th, would fall under Scorpio in the sidereal system. A reminder that the sky itself can tell a different story depending on how you read it.
Correspondence Corner!
We kick off as always with the corresponding tarot cards. For Sagittarius, that gives us the 8, 9 and 10 of Wands, the King of Wands and the Queen of Pentacles, the Page and the Ace of Cups, and Sagittarius' major arcana card is Temperance. Just a quick note, we're talking about decan cards here as opposed to the birth cards that use numerology. In Tarot for Yourself, Mary K. Greer refers to these as destiny cards. She says from this card you can find indications of your fundamental impulses, desires and reactions as an individual. I've got a review of this book coming soon because it's really good. Also, these dates are approximate. I challenge anyone to give me a definitive list of dates for the zodiac decans. I've seen multiple different ones appear in the same book, which tells me that some occult writers can't even agree with themselves. But anyway, if you were born from November 22nd to December the 1st, your minor card is the 8 of Wands. Mercury in Sagittarius has got to be the most Sagittarian card in the whole deck. Wherever you're going, you're getting there fast. If you were born from December the 2nd to the 11th, your card is the 9 of Wands, the moon in Sagittarius. Here we see emotional endurance, determination and that classic Sagittarian ability to push through challenges. If you were born December the 12th to the 21st, your card is my old friend the 10 of Wands, Saturn in Sagittarius. This is the load-bearing phase of the sign, responsibility, pressure and the discipline required to make a zodiac series that's proving to be about as popular as the flu. For the court cards, anyone born from November 22nd to December the 11th is ruled by the King of Wands, the fiery visionary, confident and hungry for expansion, so pretty bang on for this sign. Those born from December the 11th to the 21st fall under the Queen of Pentacles, whose steady earthly presence grounds Sagittarius' fire and helps turn big ideas into something tangible. Every Sagittarius also gets the Ace and the Page of Cups. Those cards are shared with Libra and Scorpio in the Golden Dawn system. The Ace is the pure potential of emotion. The Page is its messenger, turning intuition into connection and imagination into something real. Finally, we come to Sagittarius' major arcana card, Temperance. This card is all about the alchemy of opposites, impulse and discipline, passion and patience, freedom and focus. Sagittarius often lives right in that tension between these forces, the urge to leap forward and the desire to live by a guiding philosophy. Moving on to the Kabbalistic tree of life, Sagittarius sits on the 25th path and corresponds to the Hebrew letter Samek, which means prop or tent peg. That might sound like a strange object to be related to this, but it was a really important symbol in the Bible. L'Homme Duquette says not only did it ensure the tent would rise towards heaven, but it also simultaneously secured it to the earth. The path of Samek runs from Tiferet down to Yesod, from the solar sphere of clarity, harmony and the higher self, to the lunar realm of imagination, instinct and the subconscious. Next up, we're looking at the corresponding gemstones and saying another thank you to our friends over at otterspirit.com, who've put together a beautiful Sagittarius collection. Don't forget you can use the code KIPPY20 at checkout for a 20% discount. These are just a few samples from their full selection. First up, lapis lazuli for intuition, a classic stone of inner vision. Lapis helps Sagittarius cut through the noise and tune into the deeper truth behind their impulses. Next we've got turquoise for healing, a protective calming stone. Turquoise softens the edges, cools the fire and brings emotional steadiness to all that Sagittarian movement. Next up is sunstone for confidence, bright, warm and energizing. Sunstone boosts courage and optimism, reminding Sagittarians of the light that drives them forward. And we've got peridot for prosperity, a stone of growth and opportunity. Peridot helps Sagittarius channel their big ideas into real-world success, grounding ambition into something practical. Now for the herbs, and a section that seemed like a really good idea before I realised that many of them are either foul-tasting, inedible or downright toxic. This week we're going to play it safe and put together a delightful smelling potpourri with our wandering scent sage Patchouli Pete.
Ah, Sagittarius! For you, my friend, we craft a potpourri worthy of the wandering soul. All it takes is dried flowers, essential oils, and a fixative. That's the thing that stops it smelling like disappointment after 3 days. First we add sassafras for wanderlust, bearberry bark to keep the inner campfire going, and prickly ash, perfect for the Sagittarian who keeps falling asleep halfway through a philosophy book. Next we add a stick of fiery cinnamon. We always add cinnamon, it improves everything. Except hemorrhoids. Don't shove it up there. Now we want a dried lotus flower for spiritual uplift. Some Sagittarians need it more than others. Finish it off with a sprinkle of orris root. Pop it in a paper bag and give it a bloody good shake. Perfect. The scent of Sagittarius. Just keep it away from naked flames. Smells like you set light to a spice rack. Exactly.
Kippy's Quest. Kippy's Quest.
And so we crawl out the other side of Sagittarius, smelling faintly of smoke, optimism, and whatever that potpourri was supposed to be. If Sagittarius teaches us anything, it's that life expands when you take the risk, even if you've completely forgotten the plan, the map, and where you left your shoes. Jupiter's gift is the reminder that meaning isn't found by standing still, it's found by galloping off into the unknown at full speed and hoping for the best. In the end, Sagittarians don't stroll towards life, they sprint at it, shouting instructions over their shoulder. Or in the words of Christina Applegate, I'm a Sagittarius, we need things done now.
Thank you for joining us on this flaming roller coaster of cosmic enthusiasm. May your arrows fly true, your journeys be epic, and your horse legs remain metaphorical. Until next time.